to just anybody here on YouTube or anybody with Trade the Pool. It's an amazing opportunity. I think truly, I've been doing this for a long time. It is making me a better trader. At the end of the day, I'm not trading just for money. I'm trading for really self progression and development. I find that it stimulates me in a way where I enjoy coming to the computer every day and working on myself, and it results in potentially creating a career out of it. So what I'd say is make sure not a single trade, defines whether or not you're going to make it in trading or not, because I think every single day you're trading, you're trying to make it. It's never an end goal. It's every day you're continuing to make it. It's a performance arena, just like a sport, right?
Welcome everybody to another funded trader of Trade the Pool. Today, George is with me, a new funded trader trading on a $25,000 buying power, which we call the Flex 25. Thanks for coming, George.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
For sure. We're going to talk about today with George and, just pick his brain, something interesting, just, to give you a sneak peek. He's been doing small caps and now moved to the large caps. So it would be interesting to just talk about that, the shift from the small to the large. We will watch his dashboard in a second. George, maybe we'll start with your background. How did you start it?
Yeah, so I started trading right around the same time I started college, maybe a little bit after college in 2018, I'd say, really from the cell phone. Try to systemize my trading through following FDA calendars. I'm in medicine, so I thought, trade something I might know a little bit about. And I caught the bug after I started catching some of these penny stocks really flying. I didn't really gain traction and consistency until I went into a community, relentless trading community, where I met some great low float, low cap traders that really gave me the understanding of the mindset required to be a trader, outside of just the hard skills of trading and technical analysis. And that was in like 2022, right around a bear market. I got very, very profitable and consistent as a trader when in my low float strategy. So going from there, my cousin, who also is trading with the pool, he helped me flip my mindset into trading large caps. We saw a different dynamic in the market, and I essentially want to have a family, and I want to eventually maybe shift into trading full time, of course. And I thought there was more stability and predictability in the larger cap stocks. So I built a strategy entirely around large cap stocks with the guidance of a learning software that I went under for a while. But I went under a teacher for some time, and he had a teacher who was low float, and then a teacher who taught large cap stocks. So then I tried to shift, and I went into large cap stocks, which I've been finding some success in now.
That's amazing. I mean, you did pass the bar, you passed the evaluation, so that's great to see. At least you can easily tell yourself, I did it at least one step of the way. Right? I wanted to ask you about the penny stocks before going into the large cap. You were short bias, right?
No, I was long bias.
Oh, wow. That's definitely refreshing. Tell me maybe a little bit about that, because I always talk about it in the interviews. Our funded traders, they love to short those penny stocks. So, and I'm trying to tell them, what, but the stock is pumping up before it's dumping. Maybe try to catch that as well.
Yeah, I mean, learning how to read the spreads and tape scalping became relatively predictable with some of the patterns. They have this, these stocks have magnets, whether it's the daily 200 moving average or previous pivots, or pockets, on high RVOL days. I was able to take advantage of those on a little bit of a larger time frame. A lot of people trade within the 10, 15-second realm of things on a hyper scalping mode. I was more of a 5-minute trader, and over time, I just became successful catching more so not just the pump and dubs, but when we would go into a season where there'd be a lot of continuation. So retest a previous high day, or retest a VWAP on that day, intraday plays, and then break a high a day. I started scalping high a day pre-market pivots, and the R to Rs don't make sense there for me, for my trading style. But I would say there's a lot of money to be made on the upside of those stocks. And I look at the market from a perspective of optimism. So it just doesn't work with my personality to short anything, surely. So occasionally I will, but I don't feel comfortable on the short side, even if the technicals make sense.
Wow, that's totally refreshing. from what I used to see from our side of our traders, and also I have a short bias myself. I like that actually. So in regarding to your strategies, are you, because you mentioned retest pullbacks, but also breakouts? Are you doing both of them? Are you
Currently,
mixing them?
I'm not trading low floats, right? So my entire strategy is different now, and my techniques within my strategy are different. I have a very finite window of what I'll trade based on market cap and news. So I mainly trade same day earnings plays, and I'll either trade opening range breakouts or I'll trade reversions back to VWAP or the 9 EMA. So yeah, if we're in a range bound market, most times there's a lot of profit taking, a lot of shorting into the bell, and then it likes to establish a bottom essentially against low a day, and I'll look for reversions to VWAP, where then I would imagine a short would reestablish or add to their position there, and that's where I'll take my profit. So I think being able to identify both sides of the play, is a good way of keeping your mindset in regards to positioning.
And regarding to indicators, you mentioned VWAP and the EMA. Are those two are your main go-to?
Yeah, so on my intraday screens, VWAP's my biggest indicator, I'd say. 9 EMA on a reversion is usually I'll use that the most. I don't take positions off the 9 EMA. I take it off market structure. But in regards to a profit target, sometimes I tend to lean into that 9 EMA, it seems like on a reversion. And then on the daily, I use the 200 simple moving average. I don't trade stocks that are under the daily simple moving average ever.
Okay, interesting. Are you using it also for support on the daily chart?
So interesting enough, there will be some stocks right now coming out of this last couple quarters or so. We've been in this really choppy market. So I like to draw a line where my 200 simple moving average is, and I'll reflect that onto my intraday chart. And a lot of times I'll like to see how that intraday play and the volatility will react around that level. And if
Yeah,
it remains strong, then you're thinking, well, maybe the algos or larger players at play may be trying to take this to another volume pocket or to another daily pivot level. To be honest, we've been seeing lesser and lesser of these extended moves on the daily in my strategy, where I'm just finding things that are pretty much staying within the ATR. And that's another indicator I'll use just to get an idea of volatility on a stock. When it does have high relative volume, I'll use the average true range, the trading range on the day. And a lot of times with these higher R-vol plays, we'll get, two ATRs. So that's a way I mitigate my risk and kind of have an understanding of the overall potential of what may, occur, because we never really know what's going to happen, of course.
true. And I'm listening to what you're saying. It sounds like you're more of a discretionary trader than systematic. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm very systematic in the way I find my trades, and what I will be willing to trade. I always know what I'm going to trade in advance. So whether it's a week or a couple days, I always know I have a list of stocks, a basket of stocks that I'm looking for their earnings to come out. And I use a mixture of fundamentals and technicals in regards to why I'm going to trade that stock. And then in regards to like the discretionary aspect you mentioned, my risk and my positioning is very discretionary. Most times I try to get my position into a break even scenario. Doesn't always work that way because these are big boy stocks. I mean, it's not abnormal for me to be trading, a stock that's $200-300, and
Yeah,
these things move points, they don't move cents, right? So that's something I moved from making 5 cents on scalps, 10, 15, 20 cents on a scalp as a big play to now making $2, $3, $4 is a large play, but you have to mitigate that risk based on your share size. And that's something, I've been trading this strategy for about a year or so now, year and a half, like religiously. So I'm still kind of dancing around those parameters and understanding whether or not I need more buying capital or I need what I have, you know. I don't think you need a lot to get this done. I think it's just, discretionarily speaking, not being greedy, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. And not being fearful, of course.
Looking back from the time that you traded penny stocks, small caps, and now the large cap, do you see any difference in the time, like the duration of the trade, basically?
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And even big time. So most of my trading, as far as getting into the position would last maybe 5 minutes in a penny stock,
yeah,
maybe sometimes a minute or two. At first, when I was trading with the pool, I wanted to attempt to continue to trade what I became profitable in, right? Because this can go a long ways back. Like I've been trading for so many years. I've been putting money into trading offshore accounts. I've spent a lot of time trading. And I thought that, well, this is the best thing that ever happened, having a prop firm. Maybe I can take my profitable strategy now and I can put it in, use that money into penny stocks, because money was always was the issue in which why I went into penny stocks. But now that money's not really so much of a concern, I don't really see the value in trading penny stocks personally. That's just that's a psychological thing. I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't feel that they're reliable enough for me to put any capital behind, even if you're just using them as a tool, to make money. And that's something I'm very aware of too. So it's definitely a psychological component. In regards to the trading time with the large caps now, if it's a day where I say the market's on buy, opening range breaks, they can last maybe 10 to 15 minutes those days. But other days when I'm waiting for a reversion, I find myself trading about an hour after the bell.
Okay. And
Yeah,
the holding time, like
about
from
30 minutes, 15, 30 minutes. But it does,
isn't
go ahead.
I mean, it's kind of just thinking psychologically how you handle it, because if you're used to, getting out of the trade and holding it for 5 minutes, and now you need to wait like 30 minutes, how did you handle that?
Okay, so I didn't want to I don't want to disclaim all of my strategy and my techniques, but what I will say is there's a time frame difference in regards to whether I'm playing an ORB or I'm playing a reversion. So with respect, I think that when you take that time frame, you need to risk against that time frame, market structure. So
Okay.
then it does then flip. So I'm willing to then be in the trade for 5, 10, 15 minutes, let's say on a 5-minute pattern or a 30-minute pattern, I'm willing to be in there for an hour in that situation.
All
So
right. I'm sure the guys that just listen dying to see your dashboard. Look at that. For those of you not familiar, every trader gets his own dashboard, and you can basically track your stats and see the progress. Let's look at it. So here it is, 25K flex. Flex is basically the unlimited time to pass the evaluation. So you got a lot of time basically to craft your strategy, but no worry about the time. You need to reach 6% in order to pass the evaluation, and you got 4% for the max loss. Yeah, a learning curve. We'll talk about that in a second. 43% success rate, 3.7. That's a big one. Is that something that in most cases you will aim for?
yeah, most cases definitely. When I don't go on tilt, I'll say, my trading can be relatively perfect, right? But, being a human, it doesn't always work out that way. So, and the market conditions have been tricky lately. So I have had days where I'm just more of a one-to-one. When I get into a trade, I'm looking for a 1-to-2. And if that trade really starts to work out, well, then I'm gonna continue to trail my stop loss. So this is impressive metrics. When I was on low floats, I had a very high accuracy rate, but my profit factor was maybe a 1-to-1. Yeah. So it's a whole shift. It's been a whole shift in my mindset relative to time, stocks, of course, expectations, and then technique. So you're catching me. You could see I've tried the pool a few times, and I'll tell people out there, don't be scared to do that, because I've tried everything in trading. I've tried taking loans against my trading just to stay in the game, sim trading for years to figure out what works for me. I went to graduate school. I'm a full-time worker. I've been also going through a lot in regards to that since I've been trading. So I went to university, undergraduate, graduate school, and I am a healthcare provider. So I also trade while I'm working, which is probably not the best thing to say or do.
Sure.
So I had to stop that too. So that's why this strategy actually helped a lot too, because I can see the stocks that are coming my way and I can plan out time for that. So
That's amazing. And
the f-
looking at the trades or the symbols, like you said, most of them are mid large cap, and you're not trading a whole lot, which I like that. You are trying to probably wait for the right moment, right, to attack,
correct.
and pretty solid on the quantity, the number of shares you buy. Do you have a specific way where just to calculate the number of shares, or just a classic one, entry, stop loss?
Yeah, so my cousin and I, like, we've been trading for years together, right? And we've been trying to figure out this game. And the prop firm's awesome that this has come about, because it's really helped me, I can say for myself, learn how to trade within these parameters. It's helped with my risk. So
Yeah.
in a short in a short about way of answering that question, I would say that I try to use about a half hour of my day on my trades, maybe even a half of a half on a feeler. And then if it opens up, I really want to use that daily stop loss that you guys grant us. But calculating wise, I just figure out what fits into my equity, like in regards to capital. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's a little tricky because you don't have to think so hard when you have a $100,000 account. You know what I mean? But then one thing I did realize, and I will tell the guys that will watch this or the girls that will watch this, that I thought I needed a larger account, and then I quickly realized I was using like $30,000 of capital because I couldn't risk that much. My risk was I couldn't allocate that much risk to make sense on my rewards. So I realized I was using much less capital, and I'm like, well, if you're using much less capital and you don't feel comfortable on such a large six-figure account, why not try something cheaper, smaller, and get your bearings? And then, once you do open up, you can create that opportunity for yourself.
Yeah, that's for sure 100% super important to focus on. I see guys that going for the 100, and I usually say it on webinars, interviews, start small. Even if you maybe very new to trading, even start with the 5K, right? Just to get yourself into that and understand what you're doing right, just learning from it. And then you can go for the bigger one, the 25, or even more once you're comfortable and once you
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I sim traded with one share for months.
Wow.
One share, months. And then I did two shares, then five, then 20, then 30, then 50, and then had a cash count before I established that low float strategy. So, you're seeing my establishment of a strategy through the prop firm, trying to catch, traction. So I've been very appreciative of the opportunity.
Amazing. Would love to support it, And talking about maybe your trading curve, right? You had not a rough start, but just a flat one, like break even, you could say. And then you found your rhythm. Do you remember what happened like at the beginning until you found the way to him?
It seems to be kind of the same trend I have over and over. I mean, here it's not, you don't see how exaggerated it is here, but of course in other line graphs you may see a more exaggeration. And sometimes it's, being greedy on profit takes or being fearful on entries. Other times it's, the market condition has changed for me personally and my strategy. There was a time where these plays were not even putting in a full ATR. So I was geared up and I'm ready to trade, and it just goes flat. And I think that my entry is going to result in the same sort of follow through, and then it just doesn't. So you just kind of get used to getting almost like caught in the chop. And then there's that whole side of trading where you're like, well, you know what? Like you got to just step away from it. So for the day at least. And and I know there's NVIDIA, there's all the Mag 7s out there that people are trading. It's just one of those things where psychologically this makes sense most to me. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Amazing, George. Lots of insight. I'm sure the guys watching it really enjoying it. And I want to thank you for that, for sharing everything. Trading is a very lonely game, right? When you're trading all by yourself, it's kind of frustrating in a way, especially when it takes time to navigate and find your rhythm until you become profitable. And so I'm sure the guys that listening right now, especially new guys, will get inspired from it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. And if I could say one thing to just anybody here on YouTube or anybody with Trade the Pool, it's an amazing opportunity. I think truly, I've been doing this for a long time. It is making me a better trader. At the end of the day, I'm not trading just for money. I'm trading for really self progression and development. I find that it stimulates me in a way where I enjoy coming to the computer every day and working on myself, and it results in potentially creating a career out of it. So what I'd say is make sure not a single trade, defines whether or not you're going to make it in trading or not, because I think every single day you're trading, you're trying to make it. It's never an end goal. It's every day you're continuing to make it. It's a performance arena, just like a sport, right?
For sure.
So yeah.
And thank you for the kind word.
Of course.
Amazing. So guys that want to check us out, go to tradethepool.com. Hopefully you will become the next funded trader.